that life is over and that my life is absolutely junk. So my name is Nobin Thomas. I am from Kerala. I was born in Kottayam and brought up in Delhi. And I studied in Delhi, and then further on in my higher studies, I went to Bangalore. I did my bachelor's in theology from the Southern Asia Bible College. That's where I met my wife, Srijana, and she's from Nepal as well. Now we didn't have a very romantic and kind of novel kind of a relationship. God said, this is the girl. I said, not happening. I'm a Malayali. She's a Nepali. I don't even know where Nepal is. And this is never going to happen. Please don't suggest these things to me. But lo and behold, in 2009, God took me to Nepal through a summer ministry. And I entered Nepal at a time when there was a civil war in Nepal, when there was a war between the communist and the monarchy. And there were bullets flying. Before we reached the border, there were a lot of, firefight between the army and the communist forces. And the border was closed. And as me and my friend, we decided that we'll just move by faith. Let's see what happens. And so we went to the border, we reached the border, and lo and behold, just like the Lord parted the Red Sea, He opened the gates of Nepal for us, And we entered Nepal, and as soon as we entered Nepal, the gates closed again. I don't know what was happening. Who was Moses and who was Israelite? I think my friend was Moses and maybe we were the Israelites, or I don't know what it was. But we entered Nepal, and I was in the back of a pickup truck, and I was just standing, and this is the first time I entered Nepal and I saw Nepalganj. I felt the Lord telling me in my heart that this is what you were born for. This is what you were born for. It's a unique experience when the Lord tells you, what were you born for? You can live all your life without knowing what you were born for. What are you called for? And then once the Lord spoke to me, I felt at home. That's one place. I've lived all my life in Delhi. I hated Delhi, right from my childhood. I always want to come back to Kerala. I want to stay here, wanted to study here. But my parents dragged me to Delhi every time after the vacations. Let's go to Delhi. I said, I don't want to go to Delhi. I want to stay in Kerala. But, I never felt at home in that place. But when I went to Nepal, I felt like I was at home. It was a new place, absolutely full of turmoil, going through a transition in governance, a lot of problems. But I saw the presence of God very powerfully in that place, and I felt like this is where I'm going to come back after I, graduate from my Bible college. Yes. Is that enough? Yes. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. When I reached Nepal, that's where my wife was my classmate. And we spoke, but we never had that kind of an affection towards each other. So when we reached Nepal, that's when I had this fondness and affection towards my wife, And then slowly I understood why God said this is the person, So for that to happen, God had to take me all the way to Nepal because I told Him I don't know where Nepal is. So God has an amazing sense of humor, in terms of getting people together. Now, we have been there in Nepal for the past 4 years. In 2020, during the COVID, there was a lockdown, I was in a time of fasting and prayer because I knew that the seasons of life are changing. And I knew I had to understand what is the season that God is taking us through as a family. As a time when I was praying and while fasting and prayer, during that time I just read Genesis chapter 12. And the Lord very clearly spoke to me as the call of David, the call of Abraham, that go to the land that I show you. Leave your father, mother, and your family. Go to the land that I show you, and I will make you a blessing to the nations. The long and short of it, I'm just paraphrasing what God spoke. It was as if the word of God just jumped out of the Bible and into my face, saying, how long will you stay here? I told you need to go, and now you need to go. And that was COVID. Please understand the fact that COVID was probably the worst time of this world, actually. And that's the time that God said, please go. And that's where I remembered the quote from Charles Dickens' book called The Tale of Two Cities, where it begins by, it was the best of times and the worst of times. And that's a time that we decided we'll move. We didn't have a church that was missionary at heart. They didn't believe in missions. So we said, it's fine, we will go. You just bless us and release us. And so we moved, and we sold everything that we had. One of the things that was truly beloved to me was my motorcycle. There was a 500cc Royal Enfield. I really love it because of this man. He had a motorcycle and he used to lend it to me, and I fell in love with that Royal Enfield. So later on I had one. But selling that and selling everything he had was nothing compared to reaching Nepal. It was locked down, the borders were closed, and it was not the border police, it was the army that was there on the borders on both the sides. And everybody told us, you will never make it. You will never go to Nepal. You will return. I said, I will take the risk of returning rather than, denying the faith that God has given me, that you need to go. The call that God has given me, I need to go, and I'll go. And if I return, I return, not a big deal. So literally we had nothing now. Sold everything. All the money that we have, we kept in savings and, for our son's fees in India because online classes were going on. So we moved by faith. My father came so that he can say, I told you so. So he came with me and he dropped us. He came to the border. No vehicles were allowed to cross over from the Indian side to the Nepal side. But as soon as we reached there, they opened the gates for the parting of the Red Sea is happening all over again. They opened the gates for just our vehicle. We reached the Nepal side and they opened the gates of Nepal. I saw the Nepal army just literally hitting the people who were trying to cross the border. They opened the gates for another vehicle, came and picked us up, and we just went past through the army. I saw one army guy just looking at me wondering what is going on, And we just passed through. Nobody stopped us. There was no politician, nothing. We didn't know anyone. It was just God doing what He said He will do. And we went right in. We didn't stay for quarantine. We directly went to a place called Pokhara and we ministered there for 1 year. And we have been there ever since. And now we are in a place called Surkhet in the midwestern part of Nepal. And praise God, it's been 4.5 years. We have been able to start an English service, which is one of the first in our area. The reason is because I really have a heart for young people. That's why I'm also studying in the local university over there to reach out to the, to reach out to the young people in the universities and schools. I was also a teacher. As a teacher, we got a great opportunity to share the gospel. And I saw many young people just, coming to the Lord in schools. And I was truly amazed how God can work amazingly. I remember a time in the class when I was teaching and I felt like something is happening and I just shared with the class and all the children started crying and just started saying something that I didn't expect, and most of them are Hindus. Only one person might be a Christian, and I saw that God moves mightily. So we started an English service in the city, and then in 2024 we got an opportunity to 2023 we got an opportunity to go to a village nearby. And the village is quite far away. I remember the first time me, my wife and my son, 3 of us went on a scooter. A fantastic journey. I was on the way. There are no roads in that village. So by the time we reached half of it, 3 of us slipped and fell. And the scooter was on me and my son. And my wife was, I don't know how did she jump from the scooter. She's an escape artist, I think. She escaped nicely and me and my son were under the scooter. And 3 of us, we had a laugh, because we are going to serve the Lord. And we slipped and we fell in the mud. And still we were laughing and rejoicing because of the fact that we're going to serve the Lord no matter what. And we've been there for the past 1.5 years. We've been there ministering in that village church also. There's such a village where it consists of mostly high caste Hindu Brahmins. Praise be to God, people notice us coming and going. Once we were coming, and one of those Hindu people said, "Oh, you didn't come by a scooter today. What happened?" And I was like, so much of care and concern. They're not even Christians. And I saw that how much God cares, His faithfulness, like what sister was sharing, what everybody was sharing. The faithfulness of God continues. I still remember there is a strawberry farm right above our church, and this lady, she's a Brahmin, Hindu, and she comes and in Nepali we call Pastor Bua. Pastor Bua means father, like a Catholic father or something. They have this concept of Bua, they call. So, Pastor Bua, I have some strawberry and I want to give it to you. Please take it. I said, my believers also, I have not seen so much of love that I've seen this lady, and I really had tears in my eyes to pray for her. Lord, please bring her to you. Bring her to your salvation. I don't care which church she may go to, but what I care is that she may receive salvation. And there are many such people in that village who need to know the Lord, but are held back by the traditions and the culture and the religious stronghold that is there in that village. So please continue to pray. I would invite some of you, especially Prashant Bhaiya, I saw ABBS knee. I don't know if you'll be able to travel there or not, but be more than happy if some of you from your church can come and visit us. Now, it's already 9:21. My time is up, or I was told, continue. Okay, I was like 9:20. Okay, I will not share a lot, but I'll just share a small word which I received when I was a young man, going through the worst part of my life, sitting in the night, just watching things I should not be watching, and just thinking, what am I doing with my life? Why am I destroying my life? And that's the time that this guy came on the TV. I don't know how this message came. And this person spoke about this message. And it really, that day, when I was thinking that life is over, and that my life is absolutely junk, that's the time I saw this message and really touched me. And I'm just going through the Bible from the Old Testament to the New Testament, and I'm going through the book of 1st and 2nd Samuel. And I was reading this, and I remembered that message that I heard, and it gave me a new understanding, a renewed understanding of God's love and His faithfulness towards us. My text for today would be from 2 Samuel 9, verse 1 to 11. 2 Samuel 9, verse 1 to 11. And
David asked, "Is there anyone still left of the house of Saul to whom I can show kindness for Jonathan's sake?" Now there was a servant of Saul's household named Ziba. They summoned him to appear before David, and the king said to him, "Are you Ziba?" "At your service," he replied. The king asked, "Is there no one still alive from the house of Saul to whom I can show God's kindness?" Ziba answered the king, "There is still a son of Jonathan. He is lame in both feet." "Where is he?" the king asked. Ziba answered, "He is at the house of Machir, son of Ammiel, in Lo-debar." So King David had him brought from Lo-debar, from the house of Machir, son of Ammiel. When Mephibosheth, son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, came to David, he bowed down to pay him honor. David said, "Mephibosheth, at your service," he replied. "Don't be afraid," David said to him, "for I will surely show your kindness for the sake of your father Jonathan. I will restore to you all the land that belonged to your grandfather Saul, and you will always eat at my table." Mephibosheth bowed down and said, "What is your servant that you should notice a dead dog like me?" Then the king summoned Ziba, Saul's steward, and said to him, "I have given your master's grandson everything that belonged to Saul and his family. You and your sons and your servants are to farm the land for him and bring him the crops so that your master's grandson may be provided for. And Mephibosheth, grandson of your master, will always eat at my table." Now Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants. Then Ziba said to the king, "Your servant will do whatever my lord the king commands his servant to do." So Mephibosheth ate at David's table like one of the king's sons.
Man, thank you. For the past 10 days, we have been traveling the length and breadth of India, and we have been praying for this country. Coincidentally, when we were in Trivandrum, that's the same day that Prime Minister Modi also came here. And I knew that God purposed us to come here and to pray. And I feel like, even like Mephibosheth, how he needed David to call him, I think God also knows that he needs a church to pray for the government and the people, especially our Prime Minister, so that he may also come to know the Lord. It's possible. If God can save Saul, he can save our Prime Minister as well. Now, coming back to the message, and like I said, I'll not make it too long. Many people know about the famous people in the Bible. People like David, Saul, very big personalities. But many times we miss on those small characters in the Bible, For example, the slave girl of Naaman who sent him to Elisha, the prophet. We forget about Jonathan. We forget about, from the New Testament, Barnabas. People who played a significant role in, changing the history of people's lives or even nations sometimes. And, I consider the story of Mephibosheth to be one of them, which is like a diversion from the story of David into a place of understanding the covenant relationship that we have with God and why it matters, actually. Now, Mephibosheth, as you already, if you don't know, he was the son of Jonathan. Jonathan was the son of Saul. Saul was the first king of Israel after the Israelites asked Samuel to have a king like all the other nations. Now, Saul transgressed against the Lord by disobeying him. But Jonathan, his heart was always in a place to stay in the right, continually. He always stood with what was right. Even when Saul was not willing to fight, he went and fought the Philistines with some of his other servants, and he did what he could do. And Jonathan was a very close friend of David. If you see, 1 Samuel, you can see in 1 Samuel 20 verse 42, there is this deep relationship that they share. It says, now Saul was going to, or trying to kill David, and David was afraid for his life and he was trying to run away. And Jonathan said, let me, find out. Imagine a son trying to find out if my father is really wrong, is really bad. It's one of the most heartbreaking and crushing things for a son to find out if their father is so and so. And Jonathan did find out, and he was furious in the way that his father was treating him. And Jonathan went out in the field and told David that my father is truly trying to kill you, but they had a covenant of Lord between them that you should have, a good relationship, that there should be a relationship between the two offsprings of David and Jonathan. And Jonathan said, definitely, you will definitely become the king. I know that. And when you do, remember my family. And David did remember. If you see here in 2 Samuel, suddenly this story just comes out of nowhere. 2 Samuel 9 verse 1 to 11. Suddenly this comes up and David just suddenly remembers. And I feel that many times it is not that a person remembers, it is that God reminds us that this has to happen. The same thing that happened in Sister Lisha's case. God reminded someone that, she was working here, right? Call her. Give her the job. Nobody knew about it. Even she didn't know about it. He didn't know about it. I didn't know that Modi is going to come here and we're going to pray for him in intercessory prayer. Nobody knew, but God knows. His plans are always sure. And so, the story of Mephibosheth is not another, like a side story because the writer didn't have anything to write. It was by the inspiration of the Holy Spirit that the writer mentioned the story of Mephibosheth, saying, the covenant matters. And that's why today's title was To the King's Table. To the King's Table. And that covenant matters. God calls us back to the covenant whenever we feel that we are crippled. Because Mephibosheth was a person who, while fleeing from the battle after Jonathan and Saul died, whenever there is a transition between kingdoms, there is a lot of bloodshed. You can see anywhere. In Nepal, it happened a lot. The king's whole family was assassinated in just one day because that was a period of transition. One of the most deadliest assassinations in Nepal was the killing of the king, the last king. And probably it was done by the family itself. And you see, in the fear of that killing, that they will kill the child also. This nurse, maybe Mephibosheth, maybe he was a small child, and she ran with him and dropped him. And probably while that happened, he might have broken his leg, might have hurt the knees. And because they were, trying to flee, maybe the child did not get any kind of medical facility or any kind of treatment during that time. Otherwise, probably Mephibosheth would have been walking. A person whose name in Hebrew itself, in the Hebrew root, it means exterminating idols. Removing all the spite from Israel, removing all these things. The name itself shows that they had a purpose. He had a purpose that he would keep the glory of God and remove the, idolatry from Israel. Another, way that he is understood, the dispeller of shame. His name also meant the dispeller of shame. But look at him now, the son of the king who is running away, now is a cripple because he fell down while his nurse were running. And let me tell you, I'm studying my bachelor's in education, in special needs education, and we were studying the different models throughout the history. There are, charity models and religious models. In the religious model of disability, what we see is that people consider disability as a curse, as a result of a sin. So imagine Mephibosheth living all his life, a person named Mephibosheth, which means dispeller of shame, living in shame because of his disability and because of the fact that he is more a refugee, because he has to flee for his life every moment. He was remembered by David. Where is Jonathan's son? Where are Jonathan's children? It's an amazing thing to me to see that David remembered it and he called him. Come, please call him. He called Ziba and he found out about Mephibosheth and he called Mephibosheth. Probably, just dragging himself into the court, coming with the help of Ziba, coming and bowing down before David, probably thinking that this is the end of my life because my grandfather sought to kill the king. But today, I don't know what will happen. Uncertainty ruled his life at that point of his life. At that time, David says, and very clearly I can read this and say that, where is he? And they brought him. And David said, Mephibosheth. And he answered, behold, I am your servant. The only other place that I see this, when Jacob meets Esau and he says, he's afraid of his life, for his life. Jacob is afraid that Esau will definitely kill me. He says, I am your servant. But David says, do not fear. How many times have you heard this word, do not fear? And why would David say do not fear? Because fear was ruling Mephibosheth's life. Today we sang this song which says, that help us to overcome fear. I do not remember the exact lyrics of that song, but we were singing that because fear is a very strong emotion. It was given by God to protect us, but sometimes it overtakes our life and controls us, takes away the faith that is in our heart and replaces it with doubt, skepticism, all kind of things that are not from God. And David, the first thing he said to Mephibosheth after he answered is, do not fear, for I will show you kindness for the sake of your father Jonathan, and I will restore you all the land of your father, of Saul your father, and you shall eat at my table always. And let me come to the main point and say this. He was staying in a place called Lodebar. Okay? A place called Lodebar. The word Lodebar means not a pasture. Okay? And if you remember Psalm 23, I'm sure most of you might have by heart, you know it by heart, that the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, and he shall make me lie down in green pastures. And where is Mephibosheth? A place that is not a pasture. A place that is absolutely far away from the place that he is meant to be. That is the king's palace. He is actually a prince. He's supposed to be in the king's palace. But where is he exactly? He is in a place which is not a pasture, fleeing, a refugee, a cripple, a disabled person, a person who's supposed to be dispelling shame, now living in shame. But here, David comes to call him, to restore him, and to say, Ziba, you and your servants will till the land, And all the produce that you make will be for him, but he will always eat at my table. I remember right now during worship, when I was just worshiping there, and was really touched and moved by the presence of God, because I saw this vision of Jesus sitting at a table and smiling. Come, let's eat together. And I had tears in my eyes thinking, what am I that I could sit with the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords? But he finds that joy to sit with us. You know, in theology, and I'm sure Brother Danny would know, he's fresh out of the oven of Bible college, right? It's called typology. We always try to find the type of Christ in different characters of the Bible, because the Bible is not about these characters. The Bible is actually about Christ. From the Old Testament to the New Testament, it is all about Christ. You know, one of the authors said that the old is in new, the new is in the old concealed, and the new and the old is in the new revealed. You know, so whatever aspect about Christ was in the Old Testament is revealed in the New Testament. And that's why when we go to the New Testament, you see a reversal here. David called Mephibosheth to come and eat at the table, right? Yes? You saw that? All of you saw that? Now, I'm not going to show you a magic trick. I'm not saying that. Now, come to Revelations 3:20. And that's where you see the amazing humility of God, the heart of God, and what Christ is all about. If anybody can read Revelations 3:20. And what does Christ say here to the church?
Here I am. I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with that person, and they with me.
Now, you're not being called to the king's table. The king is coming to your table. Not because we are bigger, but because he is much more and beyond our imagination. He is so amazing. They would say, I knock. I'm not barging in, I'm just knocking. And eating was not just eating on the table. Eating was always, in the Hebrew culture, eating together was a sign of being in a family, of fraternity, of having fellowship. You know, it was not just, having some food, putting it down the throat and just moving away. It was always a very significant event for the Jewish people. And when we understand the context of the Bible, and we understand how it is the person who is actually, less powerful, who should actually go to the more powerful person. Mephibosheth did that. He went to David's table. David invited him. But what is happening to the son of David, Jesus Christ? What he's saying, here I am, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door. Now this is a proposition, an invitation. Come on, if you open the door, what will happen? I will come in and eat with that person, and they with me. So there is a divine exchange that is happening. We are not just inviting Jesus inside and inviting him to our table. He is also taking us to his table. We are actually transforming day by day into glory. I really thought when Danny was sharing, I was like, do I need to give a message? Because he's given a great message. I was really blessed by what he shared. That when we are absolutely sinful, the sinful nature, when it tries to govern us, imagine Christ saying, you open the door, and when you come and eat with me, and I will eat, when I come and eat with you, you will also come and eat with me. So there is an exchange that is happening. And this is to the church of Laodicea, which was actually considered a lukewarm church, which was considered as one of the churches in the worst conditions ever. And which I say is also the condition of the global church at this moment in many places. Because during prayer I remembered thinking, Lord, we are interceding and praying for the people who are lost. For the sake of God, I wish I would have prayed more than what I prayed now. If you really go out with the heart of intercession and pray for people, you'll see people are really lost. And if that doesn't break your heart, then I'd say we have to come back to the heart of Christ and know that people are just perishing. Oceans and oceans of people. We were standing at the edge of the beach, Marina Beach in Chennai. And I saw oceans of people, not just the ocean itself, the oceans of people just standing there. And I remember I wrote it in my newsletter. I think I sent it to Bhaiya also, that oceans of people are standing there. And I think Christ is crying out and calling them, come, follow me. But how many will hear? How many will open the door? I'd like to close it here. I have more to say, but I think I would like to keep this as a thought for meditation, a thought for reflection. We cannot live our lives comfortably anymore. The Lord's coming is near. Many people are still perishing. There are still many Mephibosheths outside. They are still living in a place that is not a pasture. They're still living without a shepherd. Jesus had compassion when he saw the people. And I think he was moved to tears to say that they were actually like sheep without the shepherd. And he says that the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Young people, it's a call. We have to rise above our addictions, our problems, our struggles, our challenges, and come to a place to know that the call of Christ is greater than everything that we go through. And if we are not willing to die for it, then what are we living for? And if we are not willing to call another person who is disabled in their heart, mind and soul, and also in the body, what are we actually living for? And I challenge you, please think about it. Think about calling a Mephibosheth to your house. Call them to your table. Invite them. Sit with them. Hear their story. I was hearing the stories, so many people sitting in the boat, sitting in a place where I was going. People were sharing. Someone sharing, I don't have peace. Somebody sharing that they have struggled. They want to die without any debts. What should I answer? What should we say apart from Christ? If you walk in the streets of Trivandrum and other places, you'll find many such people who are Mephibosheths waiting for us to call them to our tables, literally and spiritually also. Let's think about it, and may the Lord bless each and every one of you. Thank you.
ഇന്ന് കേട്ട ഈ സന്ദേശം തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും നിങ്ങൾക്ക് അനുഗ്രഹമായിരുന്നു ഞങ്ങൾ വിശ്വസിക്കുന്നു. ഒരുപക്ഷെ നിങ്ങൾ ഇതുവരെയും ഈ ചാനൽ സബ്സ്ക്രൈബ് ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ലെങ്കിൽ ദയവായി ഇപ്പം തന്നെ ഒന്ന് സബ്സ്ക്രൈബ് ചെയ്യുക. ഈ സന്ദേശം മറ്റു ചിലർ കൂടി ഒന്ന് ഫോർവേഡ് ചെയ്ത് കൊടുക്കുക. നിങ്ങൾക്കിത് അനുഗ്രഹമായിരുന്നെങ്കിൽ തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും അത് മറ്റുള്ളവർക്കും ഒരു അനുഗ്രഹമായി തീരുവാൻ അത് കാരണമായി തീരും. ഗോഡ് ബ്ലെസ് യു.